Welcome back, and hello if you are new, guys. So sorry I've kind of been off the radar a little bit. Basically, long story short, I've had to move, and obviously, as you can tell, I'm not in the same sort of surroundings as I was, and it was just a little bit too stressful to try and cram in video reviews and, you know, carrying on doing everything. So I just thought I'd kind of stop for a minute. But the good news is that I'm back now. So with that in mind, it's literally, as I've just quoted, been setback after setback this year. However, it does seem that there's one small silver lining in the fact that we will be getting a brand new Deftones album. So with that in mind, hopefully Deftones will save the day on their brand new album, Ohms. So immediately the thing that struck me when listening to Ohms is the fantastic interplay between space. There are moments throughout the album where this space is explored. The frenetic riff, for example, that is on Urantia really creates that sense of urgency, but then it's immediately kind of halted, and then we have that spatial exploration, as I mentioned, on the drums. Weirdly enough, it's this kind of sense of openness and large space that I really liked about Ohms. I also think that the same sort of idea is explored, but in a slightly different way, on Error, for example, where on the guitar there's this sense of feedback which kind of goes up in increments as we go throughout the verse, and again creates that sense of kind of claustrophobia, if you will. So it's playing with space but in another way. However, for sure the most noticeable difference I think for me on Ohms is the addition of synthesizers and keys. It creates a more cinematic setting to their signature album glow, particularly on album opener Genesis and also on Ceremony. I think it also adds a sense of a kind of continuity throughout the record as well, almost that there's kind of a thread to follow. The synths can also manipulate atmosphere, and it's perfectly seen on This Link Is Dead, which I think almost has a sort of placebo effect for you to think that this is actually going to be quite an ominous song, but then it ends up being really quite melodic and quite beautiful, but also having that power. Contrast has always been a very big part of the Deftones sound, and you can see it in more of a black and white context on Pompeii or Headless, for example, but then there are some times where it's a little bit more insidious, such as on The Spell of Mathematics, where it does kind of worm its way and has that sort of how did we even get here moment. I also think that the title track itself, Ohms, has a really interesting contrast because the guitar has quite a bright and uplifting melody that for me reminded me of like pop punk, but then you go into this quite, you know, melancholic, quite introspective sound that is signature Deftones. And of course, Deftones' signature crystalline guitar sound can be heard all over the record, and again adds to that sense of how the hell did we get from, you know, the heavy sort of beginning where there's these churning guitars to this really blissful kind of serene sound that they put together. And part of that is due to the fact that there are so many dynamics and lots of layers that are being slowly but surely added, but they're kind of so small that you can't necessarily realise that they're there, but if they were taken away, you definitely notice their absence. This is very much, you know, classic Deftones coming back. You can tell this is a collaborative approach. There's also Terry Date, which has returned on production duties, so it's really old school Deftones, but again in a modern 2020 package. Deftones are unmistakable in their sound, and they have probably one of the most revered legacies in the alternative world. And Ohms is a shining example that for 40 minutes they can beguile you into their world, and there is literally no one else like them. So I hope you guys enjoyed this album review. It feels really good to be back, to be fair. I'm glad I took a break and I didn't kind of try and pile all of this on because I feel like the pressure would have just been too much. And in the end, no one likes to have that negative output. So please do let me know what you thought of the video. I absolutely love Ohms. You can pick up the album when it's released on the 25th of September. Leave a comment down below and I'll see you guys very soon for another album review. And yeah, keep in touch and we'll speak soon. Take care.